Hey, it's the Film Sharks Podcast. Talk about movies, TV shows, and games. I'm Tyler, and that's Jesse. Just making sure.
Am I?
That you are Jesse, and you know what the next line is. Alien Romulus.
Covenant.
Oh, gosh. No.
I watched the wrong movie.
Wait, what? What's the wrong movie?
Yeah, Alien Romulus.
Romulus.
Alien Romulus.
I don't know where to start with this. I've also decided I'm going to change at least my rating.
I'm not.
It's from,
I don't remember what I rated it.
Well, we normally do. We didn't rate it.
Okay.
We do a 1 to 10 typically rating, but I'm going to do 1 to 11 because that gives me a centerpiece. I guess 5 is center. No, right. Sorry. Let me back it up.
Whoa.
It takes away the centerpiece.
Okay.
So you can't just sit in the middle of something. You kind of have to go one way.
Okay. I was like,
I mean, you could do a 5.5.
5 is literally the center.
You're right. No, that's not how it works. Sorry.
I'm going to 11 to get a center.
But also, it's kind of like a funny nod to be like, it's up to
5.5.
up to 11.
That's my center.
But I'm thinking because I want to, because I don't want to lean on the fence is what I'm saying.
I get you.
Give myself a little bit of like a
on scale of 1 to 11.
Yeah, because then
That's
there's
good.
like a and then it's like it's like a Spinal Tap callback too.
Oh, turn it up to 11.
Why don't you just turn it up to 10? It's because they're turning up to 11.
That's right. That's right.
It's been a while since I've seen that.
That's right.
And also, I feel like I can just put a bunch of movies in, like my favorite movies, into an 11, and then be like, yeah, a movie could be a 10, but it's not quite into that final league
category.
Yeah, that final league.
The 11s.
Yes, the 11s league. 11Zs.
There you go. The 11 leagues
Sure.
of the sea. That's right.
Sure. Anyway, that's like an arbitrary, and also to kind of differentiate it from.
That's
typical
good.
places.
We're interesting. Listen to our podcast.
We're interesting. We have a 1 to 11 rating.
Mr.
We're
Sunday
different.
Movie still has the best rating system ever.
Best movie.
Best or worst movie ever.
I feel like some people could hate that though, but I
love
get
that.
it. I think it's funny.
It's pretty simple. It's like that's what I love about it because it's
Then they have to like give a caveat. Well, it means it doesn't
fine.
literally mean every movie's the best movie ever, but we say it's just I
Love it.
liked it more than I hated it. Essentially.
Loved it.
Anyway, that's a big thing. There you go. That's all my.
Okay, so
that's what I'm adding.
We're doing 1 to 11s now. Let's do it.
You can do what you
For
want.
now
I'm
on,
doing
it's
1 to
1.
11.
Okay, fine. I'll do 12. No, I'll do 13.
Too much.
Because then I have to sit the fence on 7.
Correct. You don't have to. You can't sit the fence.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it 1 to 11 from now on.
Here we go. There it is. The start.
-1 to 10.
Oh gosh. Oh, perfect. Oh, actually, that's not a bad.
No, I'm
something that's so bad it's a negative.
There you go. Oh, that's almost
That's a
-1 to 11 then.
That's okay. Now we have a miss center again.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
crap. Okay.
It's fine. Let's get past this. Okay.
Alien Romulus.
Non-spoilers first because I feel like it's still running through.
Gosh,
we'll do it
dang
quick.
it.
We'll do it quick.
I'm angry now.
Yeah. So it's a story about a bunch of teens who are trying to get off this nasty dark planet.
Yeah.
And so they figure out there's a space station or something. Well, they don't know it's a space station. They think there's a spaceship which I don't know why no one else caught that. Did they explain? Did they explain how they knew it was up there, but nobody else did? Or they were like, we got to get up there first before someone else notices?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Basically, they found it first.
Yeah.
Said,
and
we got to
so
go before anyone else gets there.
They get the help of the main character to join and her brother. Is that a spoiler?
Yes.
It's not really a spoiler. It's in the trailers, kind of.
That's fine.
Who's an android?
Yep.
There you go. It's not really a spoiler, I guess.
Fine.
What we're gonna say, refurbished almost, essentially. That her father refurbished to protect her, essentially, and
Gave him a new...
rewrote his programming and stuff. His chip. I don't know what you call that thing. Those little discs. What are you saying? I don't know.
like the word that they use for their job. What is it called?
Miner?
No.
Mining?
No. Like the androids. Like, this is my... It's like my code. What's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think
I'll
of
think
it?
of it later.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're
Anyway.
not programmed.
It's
but
like...
essentially they're programming.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
think of the
Not
word.
prerogative, but something like that. Now you see, look what you've done to me.
Isn't that the worst?
Anyway, so they get their friends to go up with them. They go up in the ship, and they're trying to get to these They got to get these sleep pods, cryo chambers, so they can travel to a planet that has a sun, actually. And that's the plan. But bad things happen. Aliens happen, or an alien, however you want to put it. What'd you think of this movie overall, Jesse?
Well, not to just be a fanboy, but I loved it.
Whoa. Yeah, and I feel like there seems to be a pretty big,
There's a divide.
there's a fair divide. I mean, I think it's overall positive. Let's see.
I think it's definitely a positive.
Yeah, it's on IMDb. It's a 7.4.
That's good.
Out of 10.
That's
just to be clear, which is good.
I loved it.
And I think a lot of people either really liked it or really didn't like it. But most people were pretty positive on it.
I mean, it's probably, yeah, you're probably about right.
When we'll get into the specifics, but yeah, let's just say this: I had a great time watching this movie. I was fun.
Yes.
I was entertained. I wasn't ever really like, all right, well, beginning goes slow, but I think it's a good slow. It builds things up.
It's great.
Getting to the station and going through all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The anticipation is good.
Yeah.
You don't want to kick things off too quickly.
It's the whole building up pressure, and then there's got to be a release of pressure.
Yeah. And it comes in midway almost. Well, maybe not quite midway.
I feel like it was pretty early.
It was a little. Maybe. I feel like it was a good distance into the film, like 45 minutes in, before like anything really like alien-y started happening. I mean, we're going to try not to spoil anything, but might spoil some, while we're talking about it, some other alien lore and such.
Oh, that's true.
Just so you know, if you're like, I know nothing about Alien, but I want to watch the first movie first. Then maybe
definitely do that.
You should definitely do that.
It's one of the best movies ever made.
This movie takes place in between the first and second, so Alien and Aliens. And so it's if you watch any Alien movie before this one, you don't have to, but if you do, watch the first one, because there's some things in this that might spoil the first movie some to a point.
Definitely,
I think. Which, yeah.
So
that's just a minor thing, but just keep that in mind if you care. If you don't care, then it's worth watching either way. If you just want a sci-fi horror, if you're a fan of Dead Space or anything like that.
I was gonna say this is like Dead Space,
which is like Alien, It's
for like
that
the younger listeners.
Yeah, it's closer to or I guess Alien Isolation if you played that, but it's got some callbacks to that. So yeah, Fede Alvarez. Great job. I like him as a director. He's not done that many movies, really. Like 4. They're all good movies, I think, generally. I don't know if this is his best movie overall. I think I might like Evil Dead as a horror film, better than this Alien.
Oh, no, dude. Don't Breathe is freaky.
Yeah, Don't Breathe is his... Okay, maybe it's not his weakest film. Girl in the Spider's Web might be that's still good though if you've not seen that.
I would just like to like
he's better. I think he's better at adapting things than writing his own stuff.
Probably.
I think he's great at that.
One thing I would like to see, one thing I like from him is that it's him and his production team have like such a love for practical effects.
Let's talk about the production, man. Yeah, for this movie.
It blew me. That's the thing that blew me away.
Best part of this movie, possibly.
Practical effects. They also use miniatures in this.
Yeah.
That I didn't know about, and it's just so refreshing in this age of like CGI overkill right now.
Oh yeah.
Everything in this movie looked so good.
Well,
we'll get to that.
Almost everything.
We'll get to that.
Yes. But for the most part,
camera work, visuals, cinematography, practical effects,
using practical
visual
when
effects,
possible.
Exactly. And the limited time that they did use with CGI, except for that one thing we're talking about,
yes,
looked amazing.
Not too limited.
The space stuff.
The space stuff is where it's shown. When you look out the window and you see those
it's
ice
terrifying.
rings, like those are serious. Like that's
the best CGI stuff I've ever seen.
That and the like the ship when it's taking off into the to go up to the station. That was a cool thing, and it's cool. It works out.
Use practical effects. That way, you could spend the majority of your time with the CGI, making it look that freaking good.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's more difficult. It's more difficult in general during the production. Let's say. I'm not saying it's not difficult to do CG, but anyway. But it's totally worth it. Like watch any 80s movie. Like even like Alien now. No CGI, holds up, right? I mean, you might be like, I don't love that shot, but it's still like it's a real thing that's there that you can see. You know what I mean? The light is shining off it the right way. There's no issues, or it doesn't look wonky or whatever. But I don't know. But the space stuff, the space station,
next level,
so good. The sound design as far as those.
Oh my gosh.
Or no sound, depending. Like they did a lot of like the space, like. No sound, like silent in space. That was
one thing I was going to say is that's something I really, really liked about this movie is I got over the fact in like movies when they look out into space that it's not scary. I just didn't really care.
Star Wars or something, right?
It's pitch black, and then all of a sudden you see a spaceship emerge out of complete darkness, and then every time they're looking out a window, I'm like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have like a couple inches away from death. Right?
It's crazy.
I mean, that's always a part of the Alien thing too. The claustrophobia and being trapped in
100%. And I think like Star Wars, where I'm like, I don't even care that I'm in space.
Well, when when you're Leia and you get blasted into space, you can just float yourself back in and be fine.
Space is scary. Again.
You're fine.
That's what I'm happy about.
Right. Yeah, and that's the part of it too. Like you can't leave. Because you're trapped in this thing, because it's death outside, and you got something that's trying to kill you inside. So that's all, it's just another layer of fear and horror, and it's good stuff. Cast was great. Obviously, we have a standout in, what's his name? Is it David Johnson. Yes, who plays the android. He
deserves an Oscar.
Synthetic
for this,
human,
in my opinion. This is one of the best performances I've seen all year. Period.
Yeah, and he plays almost two roles in some way. We won't get too much into that right now, but we'll talk about it in spoilers.
I've never been so like engaged with.
Yeah, and I like
last time I was like, that's a performance. Was like, I don't know, dude. It's back in like.
Yeah, I like how each synthetic is different in each film too. Like they have their own thing. But for him, like it was cool with him being kind of like not rebuilt, but kind of refurbished by her father. He was like a junked. Synthetic or whatever and fixed back up, so he has these problems, so he's almost like a needs sibling that she has to kind of take care of, like those kids who are like out there picking on him and like kicking him because he's synthetic, I guess.
That was a great choice to do that.
But there's some really good conflict with that, which we'll talk about, where there's that bit of that shift that happens. And it's interesting because you're like, oh, I totally understand. Like he's almost the most sympathetic character.
Oh yeah.
In some ways, I feel like he should have been the main character,
which would have been interesting to have an android as like a.
But of course, everyone, yeah. But of course, everyone's wanting to see like the Ripley kind of final.
I don't
girl.
care what anyone says.
She's great too.
Great.
Oh yeah, she did great. But I'm just saying, I think he might have been a little more interesting to be the main.
Oh, he was definitely a standout character.
I mean, she'd be hard to beat, but with him, it's just like
I don't think there was a bad person in actor in this.
No. Everyone did their job, right? There's characters
especially
you don't
for a
care
cast
for,
that's like basically unknown.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't know anyone's face
virtually
except the main character.
I mean, you knew like what's her face, Dora.
I only knew that because of The Last of Us.
Oh,
because she was cast as Dina. That's
right.
the only reason I knew.
I probably wouldn't have known unless someone had pointed out, be like, "Hey, yeah, that was she played Dora," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. I can see that."
She was great though.
I mean, but there are cast members who are like, "I don't like that person,t," but that was their role, right?
That's their role.
You want them to be killed in gruesome ways.
There's something in the water.
Yeah, and they have the mushy English, accent, whatever you call that.
Well, that's something I was always thinking about.
There's something in the water.
I was like, I don't think
water bottle
accents like
so weird.
Something about space movies. Weird tangent, but when you go to different planets, wouldn't planets have different accents at a certain point?
Eventually,
you
think by this point, but I mean, whatever.
Because I'm like, you don't hear new accents anymore. Is there such thing as a new accent? Or have we discovered all accents?
We've discovered all accents.
Because we're so far in the future and we're still talking like this.
I mean, that happened with, like, American accent didn't exist until, settlers moved in and the English accent kind of changed into a Southern, and the Southern kind of morphed.
They do, like, different languages, but I'm like, do we have different accents yet?
If you get a new language, I suppose you would get your own accent if you spoke, you know what I mean? Like, if you made a new language and then you spoke English, you would still have some kind of weird way you would speak different. Whatever.
Anyway.
No clue, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But these kind of movies, you're like, well, it's just like all kinds of, it's like a melting pot, but like everyone still has their own, like, different accent. You know, you have your English accent, you got your American, you got your Spanish or whatever, your Chinese. Was she Chinese? She was some Asian. Oh, what's her name?
I don't know. She was great though.
She was good. Navarro. I don't know if she was actually. Let's see what she is. Will it tell me? Eileen Wu is known for Alien Romulus 2024. That's all it says about her. Interesting. No other backstory. Okay, whatever. Asian accent. I apologize if I don't know between Chinese or like Korean or whatever, it's fine.
Here's what I will say though.
No harm.
To address the haters. It is 100% definitely a love letter to the Alien franchise.
Sure.
And
which that might be some of their problem, which I
Yes.
get.
In my opinion, it reminds me so much of the game Alien Isolation. And we know that the director was heavily inspired by that, by playing that game.
Yeah. That you can see the little save points.
But I think there's enough new stuff in here.
Yeah.
And they make twists and turns and callbacks. And I think that this stands alone on it. Like, even without seeing Alien or Aliens, which they do tie both together pretty well.
Yeah.
I think this is a standalone on its own. But I do think that this movie is just a straight up love letter to those movies that were made in the 80s.
It could have been more standalone. Some might say that would have been better. I'm kind of like, maybe. One way it would have been better, probably. And then that's still nuanced in and of it too. So we can't really talk about it just yet. But yeah. That's the question. Is it too derivative? And the problem is, if you go too far, then you get haters of like Prometheus, which I think a lot of people have come around to those movies.
Yes.
But you do get like, well, this has nothing to do with Alien. I wanted xenomorphs, which is interesting. This is the first movie they actually call them xenomorphs.
I know, right?
I heard it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Or you do something like this, or something that's closer, and you're like, well, this is just derivative, and people are like, well, this is just exactly like this and this and this. But it's like, well, yeah, but I don't know, I was trying to wrestle with that myself. I was like, is it too much the same? And I just love Alien that I'm like, I don't care. I want to just see more of this. Just give me more of the same. That's my struggle. And I think it does enough different, but it also does a lot of the same, which it's hard to say. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm in between, where I'm like, I see what people are saying, but also I'm like, but I still really had a great time.
In my opinion, though, I think that, I can see where people would make that. They do callbacks, they do lines. That's fine.
That's where it gets a little too much.
But that does not kill this other original stuff in this for me.
No, but during the parts where they do that, all I think is it takes me out. And I'm like,
a little bit.
Why? Well, okay. Well, a couple times. And I'm like, all right, they're just saying the same lines from the other one. Great. I mean, fine, whatever. But also, you didn't need to, and it would have still been probably better for it. I don't know. The exact same line too. It's not even like similar. I don't know. There's a difference between homage and just like pulling something straight out of it. And I don't know how much of that was Fede Alvarez and how much of it was like a Disney thing, being like, yeah, put more Alien into it. This person's character said that. Let's be funny to say it here.
I think the difference is Alien Covenant did the same thing that this movie tried to do. Or
it did more.
Alien Covenant tried to do, what this movie succeeded in doing, is paying homage, kind of doing something similar. I think
it went more similar to Alien, but yeah.
Alien Covenant did not stick the landing. I feel like this one brought it more back to the original white knuckle horror that Alien was in Aliens.
I like it better than Covenant.
I do too.
But
way better.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm watching it with someone we watched it with Austin and Mason.
They were terrified by them.
I was surprised at how they were spooked by it. They were, and I was like, oh.
Without spoiling,
I mean,
if
it's
you
spooky
know what,
and it's scary, but it's
spooky and scary. But that ending,
at no point where I was like, I'm frightened.
I was at the very end. That was something I was like, what?
I knew there was something coming.
Well, the abomination.
That's the other thing too. We could talk about.
We'll get to it.
Yeah. Because that's kind of a trope of Alien films. There is that kind of once you think things are settled, there is that extra thing.
That's every
generally.
Horror movie kind of though.
True, yeah, but Alien has it kind of a really specific.
Well, but people are like, it's very.
Not everyone,
I'm like,
but
horror movies have tropes.
Yeah,
and even movies. I think horror movies that you think that are not in it, they're just in it in a different way.
Sure.
All the same tropes are always there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's hard to. Yeah.
It's hard to come up with an original, brand new horror movie without somehow tying into those. What is my brain's dying today? Why can't I think of words?
It's sort of late.
Oh, maybe.
It's kind of
my
late.
My brain is fried from work. Anyway.
Well, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. And I'm not saying don't do some of those tropes, because I think you should touch on some of those because it's Alien.
The tropes, yeah.
But yeah, and that's where I'm like, how much is too much? And I think this did too much, in my opinion. It doesn't take away from the fun, but it does dig into too much of let's cop. This is from this movie, and this is from this movie.
I see what you're saying, but
not in a bad way.
It doesn't mean I don't like it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It didn't take away enough that I was like, it was just too much, and I couldn't. When it happened, it took me out a little bit, but I was right back in, and it was fine. It was fun.
To me, the price of admission.
It was done in a fun way, and I could be like, okay, fine.
There's no way I could give us a bad review.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's only for fans of the series, but the fans are like, you put in. It's a little too much on the nose.
It's a little too much.
And then the people who are going in fresh are like,
what?
Well, it doesn't make a difference because they don't know what it's just kind of odd. It's whatever.
I think it's for some people.
So that's where
a definite entry point for the Alien franchise. People who've never seen Alien.
It's definitely
movies.
one for newer
Prometheus.
It's a Gen Z entry point.
Yeah,
let's say that, and whatever. Not to say that I grew up in. I didn't grow up in the 70s. Don't see it, so whatever. But
I think just from a production standpoint, it's worth seeing in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
More movies need to be made like this, and it makes me sad of all of those people doing special effects, working around the clock 100% for a movie to look like
for crap movies.
Marvel garbage.
For a nice bleached gray.
And then I'm just thinking about
landscape and
how this movie deserves an Oscar nomination in a heartbeat for visual effects, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
And
just production design is what I would throw in.
It's crazy. I haven't seen anything that was and it was also so
it was pretty seamless. Go ahead.
Seamless to Alien to this, the transition and even production design,
and even pushing it. So the two parts of the ship are the Romulus and Remus. So I think the Remus is the older part, which is kind of more the alien, and then you get the Romulus, which is closer to the aliens technology.
Yes.
So that was really cool how they were like, let's bridge this, but you get both. Yeah, and it's pretty. You get all the sound effects from the computer, and it turns on, and those monitor, the bubble, what do you know? The curved monitors.
Well, here's my opinion though, as well. For fan service stuff, that is fan service.
That's what you. Yeah, that's the good stuff.
Those little callbacks of things that we. Yeah. As fans, you like to see all the technology. And they went a little heavy in two spots I can think of that they went really heavy in fan service. But hey, I'm a fan and I'm serviced. I'm happy.
Well, I think it went too far. So I would say you've gone too far with it.
No, I mean, like,
yes, I see what
I'm
you're saying.
happy with this movie.
Yeah, but the production design is worth I think a ticket alone. Probably would have been great in IMAX.
I want to go see it again. So
Sound was great, but yeah,
I am like on my hands and knees begging
yeah.
Kylie to go see it, but she's like, I can't. It's too scary.
Interesting, but she watches all kinds of scary stuff, doesn't she? She's just okay. So she's just afraid of space.
I don't know.
Or is it just the whole?
It's because I told her it was pretty creepy.
Kind of violation alien. There's a different kind of vibe to alien stuff where you're like, it's a little like.
It's very.
It's more invasive.
It's gross.
Yeah. It's a little, like I said, it's a little more violate-y.
It's not gory in the sense of like.
It is, but
it's not gory in like the sense of like, you know,
not
just
like a Saw.
for gore. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just like a natural, like, what would happen?
Gross. It's just gross.
If something burst out of your chest, this is the amount of gore, or whatever, you know. Yeah.
We should get into spoilers.
Yes. I'm just trying to think of anything else. Yeah. There's not too. We'll get into the negative when we go into spoilers.
I was going to take notes, but I was glued to the screen.
Yeah.
From the very opening, I was glued.
Music was good. It had some callbacks to.
Been listening to the soundtrack.
It had some callbacks to the original, like the very beginning. It had the dun dun dun.
Yep.
Dun, you know, all that stuff. Which I love that soundtrack.
He did.
It's less well, like, I feel like talked about than like the Alien soundtrack. But
he did War for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay. I'm not sure who it was. Yeah, I remember the
Benjamin song. I
listened to this. Yeah, I was listening to the soundtrack a bit. But in terms of the film, it was really good. And there's some also there are some musical callbacks that I think work better than some of the like really kind of not really forced, but the forced things that they did. And I was like, oh, I know that theme.
Yep.
It's specific parts. So I was like, that's cool. But you wouldn't catch it if you didn't know. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna give it.
From 1 to 11, my guy.
I know. Well, it's not gonna make an 11.
I'm gonna give
Unfortunately.
I'm gonna give it
like an 8.
I was gonna say like an 8.5.
I think I'll give it an 8.
I want to bump it up to 9 just for how good this movie looks.
It makes you feel good.
How
the production wise. And
the production. You know what I mean?
Not
but
like
the movie also makes you feel
not
bad.
Not the horse. Yeah. But just like the look and the vibe from it.
That's what I'm saying.
The sweet Reebok shoes, which you can buy apparently. Although they're probably all sold
out now. It was like, you know,
but like in the outfits, and I was like, I love the flight suit style aesthetics, and the 70s.
It's like
retro futuristic style. You know,
dude,
it's so cool.
I don't know how
ships
they did
look great.
It might be like the best looking movie. One of the best looking movies I've ever seen.
It's hard to say, but it's one of the best ones this year for sure.
Oh, it's so good.
If nothing else, it's definitely worth seeing in theaters.
100%.
When you can, as soon as you can. If you're into
screen you can get.
Yeah, if you're into sci-fi at all, if you can handle it, get in there. If not, you know, obviously you'd be like,
wait till it comes out.
Maybe wait till it comes out and you can skip or pause or whatever.
Dude, there was a couple times where I was like, oh my.
There's some.
Yeah. I was white knuckled quite a bit towards that ending, dude.
Yeah, this kind of stuff doesn't really it freaks me out, but I'm also not like
during that reveal. I audibly went.
I'm just like yes,
like audibly. There's the reveal at the end. I was like, oh, no.
All right, we'll go to the spoilers now. Spoilers, look out! Watch out, they're gonna get you. Okay, spoilers. Okay.
You were talking about things that didn't work.
Okay, negative things. We'll start with the main. Well, you go ahead. You're already going into it.
No,
here.
I was going to say I would bring it up just so we could talk about it.
The main thing, or the biggest callback was, of course, the Ash.
Yeah,
bot, or Rook is his name.
I was going to say it's not Ash, but
technically not. But then they do a workaround.
I wish it wasn't him.
Here's what I'll say.
Like it was like cool for a second, but then it wore off. I'm like, you're in this movie so much.
It was fun for like 1 second.
I was like, oh, that's
fun for like 1 second.
That's a cool callback.
Yeah. Well, here's what it was when it was cool, and this is what they should have done. I think is have that little bit where he's like the melted android, and then flip him over, and you can like see like in the shadow. You're like, oh, that's the Ian Holm model of. The Ash model, whatever, you can be like, oh, that's really cool. It's like, and then take the little chip out, and you can tell it's him.
That's it.
But even if you unless you hadn't seen it, you wouldn't care. But then have another android on ship.
I agree. Or just
different character.
Well, like I was saying, just don't have him in as the
Just a whole
android
other
on the
android.
Romulus. It could just be he was on like a computer screen, and it could be something
The
like that.
computer
Or you hear
screen
his
would have been
voice.
better.
It could have been just his voice.
Well, yeah.
Because how
Or
do they do all that? They're gonna that has to be AI, right?
Here's what you do. Yeah, maybe take the disc from his neck, or put it into the other guy, but turn on the computers, whatever, and be like, oh, I can put this into the system and see what happened, and you can talk to him that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, through a monitor, and be like, oh, I'm blah blah blah, and then that's at least like the monitor stuff was not terrible because it had that nice.
Yeah, but seeing this weird deep fake was not good for like a little bit. I was like,
bad.
ugh.
I thought it might be shorter than it was, but it kind of kept going, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, now it's gone on too long.
They kept showing it. I was like, just don't show
And initially, I was like, oh, they're doing it's Ian Holm, and I'm like, that's cool because
I wasn't expecting
in
it.
universe it makes sense because there'd be multiple of the same model, but it's unnecessary and it's
It
just
could have
weird.
been-
It's weird and
to
it's
be
not
honest,
good.
if
This
you
is
were
the
doing
Disney.
an homage to him or something,
Yeah.
they could have been like seeing a synthetic on the planet, just him walk by. I would have been like, oh,
Yeah.
that's Ian Holmes.
Yeah, or like you said, flip him over. You can see it's
That's
Ian
it.
Holmes' face, and then like look at back at some footage, and that's him there, and he's like talking to the screen about it.
That's the one thing that
You could pass it off that way
I'll
because it's
give
not
it
a
a-
clean screen, and you can get away with some of the CG.
I would give it a harder criticism. it just didn't have to be him.
no,
But once I got past that, I was like, okay, at least his character was actually
It was
integral
done-
to the plot.
it was
where
done well-ish,
It didn't seem like they
character-wise.
Yeah, it didn't seem like that character just exists to put him in there. It seemed like the character exists of the synthetic that was like that seemed like there from the beginning. But then later on, they were like, well, let's just make it Ian Holmes.
well, what if? Yeah, because that's what it sounded like. I've even heard that there was at some point there was like Phoebe Waller-Bridge was possibly going to
would be
play
fine
one.
with anyone.
But yeah, because we haven't seen a female synthetic, so that would have been kind of interesting.
There's the female synthetic.
Well,
in,
Call, in
yeah.
Resurrection, but she was actually made by synthetics, so she was
that's
she was like a
probably-
second generation.
Wasn't there some in
That's
Isolation?
aside. There were like the weird Siegson,
Yeah.
like the drone kind of. They were like less. Anyway, that's an aside. But I don't think. Yeah, there were like women-ish, whatever. Anyway,
That was the one that
would've been cool, though,
That
but-
was one that I
That's
kind
the
of
one
was
that
like.
was
I
bad.
was forgiving. I was like, okay, I'll give it to you. The
This-
one that got me though.
I feel like
the
this
line.
was the Disneyfication
100%.
for sure. Because I'm like, okay, starting in Tron or whatever.
I would like to
They've never
think-
quite cracked it. The best one I feel like was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with the really young Kurt Russell. I feel like that worked pretty well.
That's fine.
That's like the only one that I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. But I guess that goes back to even like X-Men 3. But anyway, Disney really likes that whole de-aging, bringing someone back, well, Tarkin or something,
Yeah.
It did have, this movie did have a bit of like Rogue One-ish.
Well, that's
Disney
what I was
vibes.
gonna say. It does feel like studio interference. I would like to think, which I don't know 100%. I'd like to think
Don't know.
that Fede Alvarez would have pushed to not put him in there. Or
think-
I would like to think that he was not.
I think
the
he
one
was
that
okay
thought
with
of
it.
putting
Yeah.
him in there.
Like you said, I think they probably had a synthetic in there as like a villain role, which is
Yeah.
good. I think that's a great role for them.
I love when they do
Good
that.
stuff. But then, yeah, like you're saying, like they were writing it, and they're like, and then the studio's like, hey, what if that was
What I'm thinking is
and it makes sense continuity wise.
they were like, well, we just need to have something that's more recognizable from the other movies.
Yeah, and I just don't think you need that.
I don't think
But
you need it. Which at the end of the day, I was like, I forgive you. It didn't really take me out too much because he was so integral to the plot.
Initially,
It took me a second to like get used to it, but then I'm like, okay, he's just a character, and I didn't think of him as Ash. I was like, okay, this is someone else.
So one way they explain it is apparently since Mother is like connected through the company, that he actually had the Ash memories.
That would be
So
interesting.
it's a little bit of like, okay, so it kind of was Ash, but it wasn't.
That makes
technically
sense.
There's some weird things with that, but anyway, that's an aside. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the longer it went on, and whenever they showed his face not through a screen,
That's when it was not good for me.
CRT screen, whatever.
Yeah.
That's when it was not so good.
Yeah.
Because then you're just like, his jaw was off. Oops, sorry. I think the voice actor, the actor did a good job.
It was like spot on.
It was very good, yeah.
Well, that's how I knew it was him at first, because like I heard his voice.
Yeah,
I didn't see his face. I'm like, yeah, that's him.
Or here's the other option. Just, get like a Ian Holm cast, but do like the really melty face.
So you can't really.
Yeah, you don't see his face, but you can use the same actor in the voice, and it's still like, it's the same model, but it's not his face.
It was too uncanny valley, where it's like,
not right.
It doesn't feel. But the way they get away with it is like it's an android. I'm like, it still
doesn't
different.
work because that's not what they look like even in the other movies.
Yeah,
Michael Fassbender doesn't look like a weird CG monster.
Say what you will about like the Alien franchise, but I feel like the Alien franchise is almost more about synthetics than it is about the actual aliens at the end of the day.
The synthetics are always a standout, at least.
Yes.
Or usually. Maybe Winona Ryder's not necessarily, but whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing against her, but yeah, okay. Well, we don't have to keep talking about it. But yeah, that was a part that was like, it was unnecessary, and it was like, just cast somebody else at this point. And I think it was like a Disney thing because it felt very Disney-fication.
That, and then
not the worst thing ever.
There was the one line,
but apparently,
get away from her. I was like,
well, there's a couple lines, but
that's the one that got me. I didn't really care about anything else. That was the one I was like, It would have been fun when he's like, you get away from her. It's just you added that and you're like, okay, I get it. I get what you're doing.
That would have been cool. Yeah, I think that was good. And then thought they were going to do that, and then like
I was happy with it until he said that.
And then he like randomly decided to finish it. And I was like, okay. It was like awkwardly finish it. I was like,
yeah. But once it was over, I was back in. What I'm saying?
Or what if he just said like a fun dad joke right there? That would have been funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something like...
To be honest, though, at sometimes I would have been happier with just no dialogue in that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would have been just fine. And yeah, that was the worst one, but there is a lot from Rook saying a lot of Ash lines.
That I didn't notice.
They kept doing it over and over. There's a couple of them. Like, he's like talking about, it's the perfect organism. And he's like, I admire its purity. And he's like, and also he did the whole, like, I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies.
Yeah.
It's like all that stuff. And I was like, those are good lines, but you don't need to repeat those.
I agree.
It's like,
I didn't really think about it at the time. I was more just...
It wasn't as obvious as the one.
That's why.
That was
because I wasn't
one,
thinking about, like, I heard that line before. I was like...
There's a lot of extra dialogue, too, that he's saying at the same time.
They blend that better than they do that one line.
It does blend better, but I'm also just like, why do we have to keep... It's just like, you're Leonardo DiCaprio and the movie, and you're like, there it is.
He said the line. Those two things, though,
that was pretty much the most. Those are my only
gripes with the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. Besides that, like I said, it's maybe a little too it's too close to some things. But I'm like, I like that, so it's hard for me to be like, well, it was it wasn't, it wasn't original. But it's also like, you can't go too, there are, but he does do things that are different.
I was going to say, if you go too original, you're going to get to Prometheus. And I think in my opinion, there's so much original stuff in this that, I mean, I forgive it for all those small little gripes, in my opinion. And
since Prometheus and Covenant exist, I was like, okay, I kind of like how they connected them subtly.
I 100%
That was a good way to do it, I think. A smart way.
Well, in my opinion as well, I don't want to sound just like a fanboy. I hate being that guy, but sometimes
you're just a fan.
I'm just a fanboy. I think it's good. I can call out when things.
I had a good time.
I can call out when things are bad, and I agree that there's some problems with this movie, but I also think it's absolutely great.
And with every movie, you're always going to be like, I'll let that slide. You know what I mean?
There's things in Oppenheimer I still let slide, and people are considering that like one of the best movies ever made.
Sure. And again, like I said,
that bomb was boring. Sue me. The rest of the movie's amazing.
The build-up is really good.
Exactly, but then you see
that's what matters. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I mean it's big.
See, everyone has gripes. I was hoping it would be bigger, movies. But
let's be realistic.
I have gripes with Inception. I have gripes with The Dark Knight. I have gripes.
No, those are perfect.
Exactly.
No, but
sometimes you forgive the film and you move on because
everyone has their own things. Is what I'm saying.
Not every single second of a film can be perfect.
The difference is, like I said, with The Acolyte, is when the rest of it is really good, I forgive things.
Yes.
Right. I wouldn't talk about the fire in The Acolyte as much if the rest of it was well written and it made sense.
No, it just
and it wasn't dumb.
It all is bad. Anyway,
but the other stuff makes me be like, okay, you couldn't even fix this. Anyway, yeah.
But Alien, I can forgive it for those small gripes because there's so much original and not just original, but all around it pays respect to the originals, but it does a lot of new stuff.
It's a good continuation.
I agree.
And it's a good, not really reboot, but it's
a sequel to the original.
Restart in some ways, like a revitalization.
In my opinion, though, I would be happy if they just didn't make any more. And this was just like, this was the original sequel. Because I'm always scared because Disney's going to be like, well, it made money, let's make another one. And it's just going to be cookie cutter and awful. But like, just know when you're ahead sometimes and just stop. But I also want more from this universe so bad.
I mean, I'm like, I just want more of this. Mm-hmm. But then if they give me that, then I'm going to be mad because they copied it too closely.
That's the problem. It's like we've all asked for this and now we get it. And everyone's like, well, now I don't want it.
I mean, you want to blame. That's what you want to get. But I think they did a good job of letting Fede Alvarez do his thing for the most part. They did. I mean, there was some small stuff, and I'm sure he was like, you pick your battle. So it's like, well, and they got Ian Holmes' wife's blessing, and apparently they liked it and stuff. But it's like, well, okay, fine. It can be the Ash. It can be Ian Holm, fine, as long as everything else is the same. It's like, all right, we'll give you that one. So, but I don't know. But get another director that's good and has his own vision too.
I get good movie. You get to put those in there.
Sure,
that's fine.
Fine. Yeah, the rest will be fine.
Let's talk about the Xenomorph. Okay, the design in this and the visual effects, practical and everything.
Like a full
it was so scary. In my
robotic or pneumatic or whatever you call that one.
I don't know, dude.
It's good.
Something switched from Covenant and Prometheus. It's like 10 times scarier for some reason. I
think Prometheus was scarier than Covenant.
I agree. Covenant, it was just like so many, Covenant, and they were all CGI.
They had built suits and they built animatronics for it, but then they layered it with CG. Yeah, and I was like, why? You built these things and they look great. Like I went back and watched some of the tested stuff with like Adam, where he's like at the Covenant stuff. They're looking at the head and stuff. And I was like, awesome. It looks great.
Well, I was thinking like the scene,
but then they just covered it all up.
I don't know, man. It's just so scary in this one. I think it's also the way that the cinematography is and the lighting. It's so good. They don't show it too much.
They can't. Yeah.
There was also a shot that look great. I keep sticking with me, and we're in spoilers, so it's okay. It's when I can't remember her name. The girl who plays Dina. She gets out of the ship and she's like knocking on the door, like "Let me out." And you just see in the background the Xenomorph just sitting there watching.
You can see it.
And he's like, "No, we can't open the door because that's what it wants."
Yeah, well, that's the fun. That's like the It's so it's a callback to. Then
that shot.
Now I gotta start talking about the whole Andy
good.
Situation because that all feeds into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool stuff like that, where you're like, oh, well, you're screwed. And I'm like, we're not going to open it for you.
It just feels terrifying that it's just even in the room.
It's the old...
compared to like...
It's the old train, whatever, save one person to kill multiple, whatever.
Well, not even that. It's just the fact that...
Which they call back to another scene.
In Covenant,
like that.
I knew that there was a ton of them there. They were off screen. I was like, okay, who cares? But this one, it felt like Alien Isolation. Like it's in the vents, it's everywhere. I don't know what it is, but
it could pop up at any point and it's hunting you. Or
that's it's like that feeling I got when playing the game. Like I don't know when
it was close to that. Yeah, you're like, well, I don't know where it is. It could be around this dark corner in front of it. It could be in this vent above.
But then when you see it, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. But you come to find out there are multiple. Okay, well, let's talk about the whole Andy and Rain thing.
That dynamic is so good, by the way.
Yeah, which I would talk about the facehugger scene too. That first one in the water.
It's terrifying. I'd say this facehugger that might be the best. Scarier.
That might be the best alien scene, like alien creature scene. The first facehugger scene, where the room's heating up and they're dropping into the water.
It's gross.
And they're like beating them off, and then
I hate it in the best way possible.
The little throat tube is like trying to get into his mouth. That's a great shot.
Disgusting.
Iconic. No, but it will be. I think.
But Rain and Andy, though, that is like some of the best dynamic in this
Yeah.
The character development and the way it's written, perfect.
So yeah, so like when the whole thing of like, well, we need Andy because he's got to talk to Mother, but we're also going to need him to get us to this new place. But synthetics aren't allowed, and we're just going to like, just leave him to die or leave him in the ship to leave. And she's kind of like,
she's struggling with it
because she's like, yeah, and I think I get that because you're like, well, she has the dream about seeing the sun, and they live on this crappy planet where.
From what I understand, it's a planet that does not see sun.
So basically, I think these people work for. They're like all indentured servants.
Yes.
And if you don't know what that means just means you agree to work for somebody and to pay for your passage essentially to other places. So my guess is initially like all these people got to this planet by saying like going to the company and being like, hey, if you can go, you can travel through space, but we'll get you there. You just got to work for us for this many hours.
And they extended another.
And so she's like, oh, I can. Well, I don't know what it was, but it was like I don't know if it was hours or if it was like points system, whatever it was. But she's like, yeah, I'm ready to go, and it was like, yep, good to go. And they're like, well, weyland-Yutani just bumped up the quota, so sorry, you're gonna have to keep working.
And you can tell like the urgency of getting off of there is like hyping up because her parents died from a disease at the. It
was like a black lung because they were just like
And that's happened to all of their parents. That's why all these teens
and it's going to happen to all of them if they don't get out of there, basically. And that's just part of the whole, Weyland-Yutani is the worst company, basically. And I wondered, like, when someone fulfills their quota, do they sneakily bump it up? Because it looked like it was like, oh, she's good to go, and then she's like, oh, hold on a second. Oh, now we've moved it all up, but it doesn't move up for everybody, or is it just do they do that for each person who gets like free? You know what I mean?
I think they do that.
I don't know, but it was kind of like it's crappy.
I'm getting the feeling that Weyland-Yutani does not have the best interests.
Maybe not, but I like that she has this struggle, right? There's this thing that she wants. She wants to get off the planet. She wants to go see the sun, which is a great scene when they fly and they get above the surface and they can see the sun hits her face, and she can actually feel the radiation from it is cool, the heat. But her and Andy. So Andy is like this special needs brother, interestingly, and they kind of treat him poorly. Like, that's not Tyler. What's the other guy's name? Bjorn. So Bjorn hates.
Don't see that name enough.
Not really.
I like that name.
Doesn't like synthetics because his parents were killed by one killing them, having to make the choice of killing a few to save the many, which you kind of understand, but also you understand. But I like that you understand his point of view too, and you're not just like, oh, he's just like a big jerk.
Yep.
But you're like, okay, I kind of get it. I get you don't like synthetics. All right, I know why. There's a ton of world building and character building within just such a short amount of time. I feel like everybody's motivations were like pretty clear. I mean, some people were more laid out than others. But it's fine. You can't tell like everybody's freaking backstory. Some people just like, these are my friends and I'm ready to get out of this place.
Basically,
that's easy. But the Andy stuff, and he's like programmed to help Rain, even though she's gonna abandon him.
I still can't think of that word.
Oh,
I'll
think of it when I stop thinking about it. His protocol?
It's not protocol.
Did I say that already?
Yeah. I'll get there.
Programming protocol.
I'm telling you, dude.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to remember that word?
You could probably like look up synonyms or something, but his like. He conveys so much with just like his eyes and the way he's like, you know what I mean?
So good.
It's a cool dynamic because he's feeling betrayed, but he can't, like, he's got to do what's best for her. So it's like, well, that's what's best for her technically, but she's kind of like, betraying him and like, she's doing it for this being selfish essentially. But when he has the change, when they take that chip and put it into his, which I think that was cool, they introduced that weird like neck chip thing. They haven't seen that in other movies. And he totally like rewrites. He gets a upgrade essentially. That's a really cool scene when they're in the facehugger scene and he's like freezes and he's kind of like jerking around a little bit and his eyes roll back and that's really cool. And then he catches the facehugger by the tail.
So good.
Good stuff. But yeah, just his performance of just that back and forth of like, kind of troubled, needy, not needy, but special needs kind of brother character who's like kind to everybody and people pick on him. And to this like, unfeeling, cold, corporate, like,
but also
I'm doing what's best for the company, but also what's best for general people in general, but they come second to what the needs of the company. Is really interesting. And then it flip-flops on her, right? Because he's like, oh, you were gonna, what was that scene where she's like, oh, you can't just leave her in there. He's like you were gonna do it for me or something, it's like, basically. Oh, got him, went back on it.
That was why I was like, okay, we're actually thinking about what we're writing.
Yeah. There's a story here. Yeah. Anyway, but they need him to get around all these doors and everything, but they're like mad at him for like letting what's her face maybe die. She doesn't die, but okay. Man, it's just a good dynamic, and eventually, but the flip flop was when he's damaged and he allows her to replace that chip, and he's back to his normal self, and they're like, I'm not going to abandon you. I see my error. You know what I mean? Like, you're my brother, and even if
it's so good,
that's good stuff. I mean, that's really simplified, but because that stuff's conveyed through. No one's like saying that specifically, but which is show don't tell, right? But it's just a good. I just love that little dynamic of her and her brother. So that's good. Like the heart of the story, obviously, but him more so even than like her. But I like her whole, like she'll give up that dream for, her brother, even though they end up doing that anyway somehow. I don't know what the plan was. I guess she was like, well, we're gonna get you in there anyway. Whatever. I don't know. What else? Multiple aliens. They show up. There's they do the hive scene. That's pretty cool. They get the black goo. The automatic guns. The pulse rifle, the pre-pulse rifle with like sweet. With like the little arm holder. So, because they were like, we're gonna make sure that people aren't gonna complain that she's never shot a gun before and she can shoot all these aliens. So we're gonna make it automated. So no one could complain about that. Maybe they wouldn't, but someone would. And then the zero gravity was shutting off and on initially, and I was like, that's coming back, obviously, for sure. So that's the alien. What do you call it? The alien acid blood scene. Yeah, really cool. That was pretty floating through. It's so tense. Good. It's tense, and it's like, it's good stuff. They can't shoot them because their blood will seep through the base of the station, so it'll just open up in space and they'll die. Which I like that people are actually like, oh, we can have to think about these stuff, and like I said, there's space all around you, so you got to think about these other things as well sometimes, right? And some other movie would have just been like, yeah, we'll just blast them and it'll be fine because we're in whatever. Doesn't really matter where we are on the ship. You don't know where we are, so it's fine. But we're like, hey, we're at the bottom of the ship. We can't just melt through this. We're like at the thinnest layer here. So that's cool. But anyway, you see some of that in the trailer. Cool stuff.
I just found the word.
Nice.
Primary directive. Freaking God.
So directive. That's not the one I was thinking of, but that works.
That's the one word I couldn't think of. Oh. Anyway.
Maybe there was another one. Maybe that is. I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
It's his directive.
Yeah.
Man.
Directive.
All right. We got anything else to say about it? I could talk about this movie all.
You want to talk about the ending?
The offspring.
Yeah. So the black goo, though, we're like, oh, hey, they got the rat, which they didn't watch any more of that video. They're like, hey,
just stay for one more minute.
They're like, hey, the whole conceit is what they want humans to be more resilient in like space travel and stuff because we're so puny. So we need some of that alien goo to make us stronger.
Which I understand what they're trying to go for here. They're like, if we have the ability to heal people.
Which I feel like that was a lie because I'm like, they're always trying to weaponize this thing.
Going to definitely profit off of that somehow.
I know. I'm just like, but it's probably a weapon is what they're really looking for. But whatever. This works for now. And I was like, oh, well, initially when the K character's like, oh, I'm pregnant at the beginning. I'm like, oh no.
I knew immediately.
Get out. Do not be pregnant in an alien film.
Not even alien horror movies.
Well, horror movie in
pregnant
general.
people.
But even
do
more,
not go around.
Yeah. But Alien, that has like so many like calls to being pregnant and that sort of, like, chest burster and stuff. Yeah, there you go. And I was like, oh, what's happening? So it was interesting because I was like, okay, this didn't change her. Because I thought it would just like initially, because she was like hurt still. Like the whole time she was like, and stuff. I was like, so what's going on there? And it all apparently went to the baby or whatever. And created some weird plant, flower, what do we want to say? Engineer baby.
Oh, I loved it. That was the most unsettling part of this movie.
Probably. Yeah, that's probably.
Not just unsettling, it was surprisingly, I did not get spoiled of anything.
Yeah.
It was like the one thing. Now it's just everywhere on social media.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I feel like if I didn't see this movie when I saw it, I'd be so like not as shocked.
Yeah.
It was so shocking just to see it it just sitting there like looking.
The reveal, it was pretty good.
That is one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's one of those like you don't want to turn around and see that, and you're like, oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, so the last and like I said, Alien movies do that a lot with like they do that with the scene in Alien where you think she's safe, she's in the escape pod, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, the xenomorph is in there too, surprise. Or in Aliens where you're like, oh, I guess we're safe back on the Sulaco, and then we're like, nope, there's the Queen. It's stowed away on the ship, the drop ship.
That's terrifying.
Which is great, but
and then the difference double twist.
But this one you're like, you knew it was coming for a while. You're like pregnant. She's got the goo. She used it. You're like, okay, well, I'm just waiting now.
Well, I didn't.
So I was never like surprised.
So
like,
that's
when
why
is it? I was just like, okay, here.
I think that's why it works so well and it's so shocking is because I was like, okay, it's just a xenomorph.
Here's the question.
But it's like, oh, this is like 10 times worse.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah.
Here's a question though: is
why is it a full-grown adult like in no time?
Well, it's so fast. Well, there's the other thing too: is the cycle of the aliens is super fast in this movie.
Yes, which I kind of like.
Okay, like with the first girl, when the facehugger gets on Navarro, it's very fast. Which
here's the reason I was thinking about this too. I think.
Which is whatever.
It is fast, but there's also a lot more xenomorphs on the Romulus. So I'm like, it could be any of them at this point.
Well, we know it's fast because of the chest burster, though. But I'm not. But still, yeah. And it's on the ship when it comes out of the little it's a little sack thing that it created. Which they added that. That's a new bit of
the weird
life cycle, I guess. Yeah,
it's very suggestive.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Which you don't see that in the other films, so they've just added like, okay, so now it cocoons itself after it sheds its first skin, and then it comes out a full xenomorph, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway,
people were like complaining, like, how is it a full blown like the offspring?
It's just fast.
It's like to me, I'm like the black goo is like,
sure, I can
it's
give
insane power stuff.
I give that one more of a pass than like the xenomorph, but I understand that it's just like, well, we don't have like 2 hours, so we got to get this xenomorph out there. But yeah. I could have done it in other ways, but who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, xenomorph, human, engineer hybrid thing. It's what's that? This is some basketball player dude.
Yeah.
It's just funny because I'm like, it's pretty much just that. He's just wearing a little suit.
So unsettling. And this is the first time we've really seen like a alien hybrid like this. Because it's
I would
also
say
got
Resurrection.
The engineer.
It does have a little bit of that.
It's so unsettling. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it was
Resurrection
also
has
just the double twist of I knew something was coming, but I did not know it was going to be this bad.
Yeah, like what was it going to be? Yeah, the when you get to it, you're like, I don't know what it's going to be. No. Like at this, that's the cool part of this because you're like, oh, here's the unknown. Like xenomorphs essentially. Facehuggers.
I was like, okay, there's going to be a reveal. It's going to be a xenomorph, and that's going to be ending. It's going to be kind of whatever. Yeah. But that twist of like, oh, it's something 10 times worse.
I knew it wasn't a xenomorph.
It was definitely like the most tense part of the movie for me. Period. Sure, yeah. I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, thank goodness there was some more acid in that little egg thing it had because that we've been screwed. So that part was cool with like trying to figure out how to kill it. Mm-hmm. The other thing I like is they went with like the opposite than like flamethrowers. They usually do that. Mm-hmm. They went with like ice, the cryo gun. That was a cool idea.
Cool.
like again, there's just the whole like, hey,
it rhymes.
it rhymes. But just again, like just the everyday people, and they're like, what can we make? How can we make a weapon from just the stuff we have around us?
That's how it should be.
We don't have guns, so like we make a quick flamethrower, or we make a stun gun, or we make a
so good.
But creepy scene. Probably the creepiest monster.
And it's definitely super well directed. That whole ending scene, it just builds tension
where you
so much.
don't see it. You sort of see bits
of
it, and you see movement, and then
the one time you see it stand up and you see her right beside it, I'm like, holy cow, it's 10 foot tall.
I'm trying to remember if they made him larger, or if he's actually.
I think it's.
He's a big guy, but I think they did a little.
I think it's
bigger.
perspective a little bit.
So yeah, and
he's
then,
like 8 foot, which is also crazy.
Yeah,
but she's not that tall.
Yeah, right. She's like.
But I definitely think they made a different. They made him look a little bit taller.
I think they made him bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then she blasts him out the old into space style.
And I was like, it's over. But then I'm like, it's a double.
Onto the ice
blast him out twice.
Yeah, that's right. And then you got to deal with the rings and fly.
That's what I'm saying. It's not just as simple as like we're doing the original Alien, where it just blow him out in space. So there's a ticking time bomb. That's
true. I forgot to mention
the Romulus is going to crash into these rings of this planet, and that's the ticking clock.
And it's going to happen way faster than I thought it was.
They're like 30 minutes, but then there's a crash happens, and it just throws a trajectory, and it's like, all right, you got 10 to 15 minutes.
Well, it was like 36 hours, and then it became like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, something like
and that's where I was like, okay, ticking clock.
And I like
2 days. That's gonna be fine. They got plenty of time.
I thought Andy,
30 minutes, we're gonna die.
And I thought Andy hit the pull up button, which I feel like he should have. I wish he would have done more in that lens, but they were trying to do the whole Ripley. I feel like, but whatever. But the ship just automatically pulls up, so I was like confused by that. Maybe it's just an auto thing.
I think it had to do with the cargo bay or something like that.
Yeah, drop the cargo bay. I don't know.
Trying to remember, because there was something that hit the controls to go down.
Yeah, right. I don't know. There was some kind of malfunction, or like it was like, we gotta drop this thing because it's like
because she was going down into the cargo bay before the thing came out.
Someone did earlier in the film. Anyway, no, but it's you know what? I had a great time with this movie. That's all I have to say. Much. Like, I'm not saying it's the best Alien movie. I think it's
the best Alien movie. I'm just kidding.
It's maybe the third best.
I think it's the second.
Fourth best, maybe. Look, depends on your.
I'm just gonna say it. I'm not gonna be ashamed. Aliens is great, but it's not that great.
It's pretty great, man.
It's like an action movie, though. It's like straight up action.
Hey,
it's good.
No complaints.
But I like the horror side of Alien a little bit more.
Yeah, I think,
and that's why Alien Covenant got into that game. It's like action, action, action. Tons of aliens. I'm like,
sure.
I miss just the scary aspect.
There's still scary parts in Aliens, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I still think it's better than this one. I think just a little bit. And you know what? Fede Alvarez would agree with me. No offense to him, but
I know. But I right now I'm on the hype train, and I think it's super good.
Yeah, and I'm rethinking Alien 3. I've been watching it. I didn't get to finish it. I started watching it. You should watch did you watch the original or the assembly cut?
I've only seen the original.
You should watch the assembly cut. It's I won't say it's a lot of people would say it's better. I don't know if it's better, but some ways it's better. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Fourth one's kind of guilty pleasure. It's kind of just fun and weird.
I just love this universe, and I'm happy that we got a good movie in.
Look, I watch Alien vs Predator Requiem, and still find some good in that. So if this is 10 times better than that,
I think it's fine. On par with the original 3 or the original 2, which is why I think it's like
it's not as good as those, but yeah.
I think it's like
that's your call.
I think it's on par. I think it's as good as those two.
Yeah.
Obviously, the first one is
because I think
cannot be beat in a way.
The first one I think is scarier, even, but
some ways, yeah.
And you could be like, oh, well, 79, it's all dated, but I think it holds up.
Looks like super good. Yeah, there's obviously things that are dated, but it's still
when something's dated. But,
yeah,
but also look at that Rook face. That's not great either.
Yeah, you have to forgive the film a little bit. The original is so freaking good. Watch that one first.
If you've seen some of the behind the scenes, some of the things they shot, you've been like, I don't know how they filmed it in a way that was still scary, even with some of these kind of silly stuff.
Yeah.
Even with the suit, looked great, but it's like, if you just saw it, you're like, it's not as good. So there's a lot of skill with shooting practical stuff with like Fede Alvarez, and
I'm just happy that they brought it back to practicality and more of just like straight up horror versus like. Yeah. I mean, it got to an action movie a little bit. That's why I'm saying.
There's definitely that's what I'm saying.
I think it's a good mix of both movies. So
yeah. Okay, but yeah, we could rank them, but it's whatever. I still think Alien's still probably my favorite.
Alien.
And I think Alien.
Did you say Aliens?
Alien.
Okay.
That one might be. That's a 10. Might be 11 tier.
It might be. It's up there.
It's just so iconic too. It's just like it's that good.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely
kicked everything off. But I still think Aliens is better than this one. I just had a great time with this one.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
I'm not even going to rank it. I'm just saying it's a great time.
I'm going to rank it. It's
11. I
11.
wasn't bored. I was smiling throughout.
I was terrified.
I was happy. Yeah. It moved me.
I got teary-eyed a couple times.
Well, I didn't get teary-eyed, but I like that relationship. I was like, I can feel this. I feel it.
I felt pretty sad.
Yeah.
At some point.
I didn't care when anyone else died.
I did.
Those two were the only ones I really cared about. I was just glad what's his face got his head and stomach melted. Which why didn't he roll away? He just like laid there and took it.
The one that got me, it was just super brutal, was when they picked up what's his face, it brought him up into the nest, and then the little mouth came out, and just like you see it, like cut his face off.
Oh, when he's stuck to the wall.
No, so they
Which part are you talking about?
He jumps in front of Rain and gets stabbed in the back.
Is that
by the xenomorph?
The main guy, Tyler.
Yeah.
What's his? Tyler?
And he gets pulled up into the nest.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and they're all like surrounding him, and it like
remember.
hissed at him, and like it jumped, and like you could see it take a giant chunk out of the side of his face. I was like, oh my gosh,
their little mouth tongue thing.
That was gross.
Good stuff, man.
That was good.
I was like, yeah,
that was good. It was good.
You were better than some of the other characters, but I didn't care about you either. So I'm glad.
Glad
it felt good.
I'm glad you're dead.
I'm not glad you're dead. I just think it was a good death. Let's say
it's good. It's good.
I'm happy with it.
The only thing that could have made it worse if like they had like the industrial machine that she got in, like from the original Aliens and stuff like that, and there was like a cat and stuff. I'd be like, okay, now we're going a little far.
I mean, there's only a cat in the first one, but yeah.
I'm saying they could have got way crazy.
A power loader ending. Yeah, I mean, obviously, whatever.
Yeah,
that works great in Aliens, but yeah, you can't do it too often. You can't do too much of it.
Anyway,
I'm very happy.
Alien.
I'm happy.
What a time to be alive.
What a time. What year is it?
I've been talking about this year. It's been a good year for movies.
It's been a great year. And
I feel like I say it every year. I feel like we've actually had some like really solid movies.
This one actually might be. It'll be hard to rank this one with some of the other ones. I'm like,
I feel like we've gotten our 3 so far.
I'm far away from. Yeah, I definitely have a top 3. I've gotten far enough away from the others to be like, it's hard to compare. Because right now I'm hyped up on Alien, I feel like I want to put it higher than some. But
I'd love to talk about like favorite years in movies. 2015 stands out for me.
Yeah,
for one reason, but
for a couple reasons.
There's one big reason. But,
sure.
But I feel like this year's been a really solid year.
It's been a banger year.
I'm happy.
It's a banger film year, man. And even a lot of the ones I haven't seen, I'm like, I still really want to see this, and I know it's gonna be good. Like Longlegs, haven't seen that one yet, but
and the ones that I was like, the ones I were excited that I've seen, all amazing.
Yeah,
those 3 obviously. But there's some surprises. I was like, okay, I was not expecting this, and some good freaking TV this year too.
There's been some good TV. There's been some bad TV.
Freaking Shogun. Oh my god.
Yeah, still haven't finished Shogun, but it's good. What I've watched is good.
Kylie's obsessed with it now. She's gonna go. Small tangent. Does Kirsten do this where you watch something, you show her something, and it's like their new obsession for a little bit, and they recommend it to other people?
Not very often. She's less of a
Kylie does that with everybody.
Movie thing, but
I showed her just recently. We watched Shogun together.
Yeah.
And like 2 episodes in, she like calls all her family and friends like, "Oh my gosh, I got this new
watching
show.
this
You gotta
show.
watch. You gotta watch Shogun. It's so good."
Drop everything.
She did it with like Ripley and like
Talented Mr. Ripley. Whatever.
You watched that yet?
No, I have not.
I'm just kidding.
I will get to
it's all right. It's pretty
hope.
good.
I plan to.
Anyway,
it's just a lot of stuff to watch.
I'm like, I show her all these things, and she's immediately like, "All right, family, watch this immediately." But
yeah, she's gonna take the Like, I found the show.
I found the
not,
show.
Not
watch
Jesse.
It.
It's like, yeah, I found the show. I showed Jesse.
Basically.
I got the show that I just, I showed Jesse the show, and it's great. So
I got her hooked on What We Do in the Shadows, and now it's like her dad's favorite show ever.
It's pretty brilliant.
I know.
Well, that's our show. Hopefully, it's also brilliant. Probably not.
It is.
Yes.
This is cinema. This is high class art
It
right
is.
here.
Well, it's not cinema because it's not filmed, but
This is audio.
this is what's the comparison?
Audio.
This is
I know they call them audio files for people who are like in like movie fanatics. So
well, yeah, audio files, not movies, but this is pure. It doesn't work. You can't say pure audio because like everything's
this
like
is
anything could be
sound.
pure audio if it's just the sound.
you know what? This is the end of the show.
This is your eardrums vibrating in a beautiful way.
Gross. Gross. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the end of the
crazy
show.
that waves just do that to your
I know.
ears and you hear things
This is and it's like each wave is unique.
different.
Yeah, my voice is in a unique wave.
Yeah, and then when I go deeper, it's a different
Your
wave.
voice is a unique wave. You're all unique waves out there. All right. Well, that's it.
Next
Thanks for listening.
week, don't know.
Don't know.
Never know. It's always something.
There's no new. There's not a lot of movies coming out too soon, like in the very distant
sad.
near future. But
We got a rewards card and we got to use it now.
I know. I looked at what was in theaters and I was like, this is nothing I really want to see.
Yeah, I think
too much.
after October we got a couple.
Late September, October. Yeah, there's some movies coming out. Anyway, that's it. Go check out Alien Romulus if you're into that thing.
And if not,
Just know it's
well,
pretty
you
good.
are missing out on good content.
Yeah, or you're
You're just a loser.
or
that
you're
lives at
able
home
to
with your-
sleep at night. Whatever.
That too.
Bye.
Bye.